estate in Keller Williams. I joined Keller Williams in January. Actually, I'm sorry. I got my license in January of 2003, and I joined Keller Williams in February of 2003. And so we're like, so you didn't know this. I'm surprising you. This is my 20th anniversary podcast. I'm just borrowing your space.
I love it. Well, I knew that, and I knew it somewhere in my unconscious mind. And I'm so honored that I get to be the one that interviews you celebrating 20 years of your career. So congratulations to you, my friend.
I know, what a coincidence. So, well, it's good to be here. I've known you a long time. We've had some journeys together. We've watched each other in our journeys. So congratulations. And I love what you're doing. You're changing lives, making an impact, and highlighting and spotlighting people in their lives and what they're doing that people can relate to. That's what I really enjoy. And so if there's anything today, my mission, my goal would be to hopefully create a story and a journey where people can relate to, because we hear a lot about the people that are very successful. We see them at the top, and they're great people and know them. We know them personally, some good friends that are at the top, done great things. And sometimes the people, say, what's the real world? Where can I relate? And, I remember when I was in real estate school years ago, and this is the way I really want people to look at me, is I was in real estate school and, 21 years ago. And I looked up there, this guy was teaching class, and I go, man, if that guy can do it, anybody can do it. So, my biggest pleasures is when people say, and I hope I make it look in an area where maybe my story, maybe my journey, wherever this conversation goes, anybody who watches this, and maybe they'll tell a friend to watch it, is that no matter what hits you, no matter, what happens, I mentioned to you that there's always a second chance. And I actually believe there's third, fourth, and at any time, somebody can make a choice to change a direction. And you never know if it's this podcast or it's the book or if it's Bold or if it's that one team meeting. At any point in their life, they can make a pivot. Yeah. And change that direction. So I hope this makes an impact to somebody. And if this one doesn't, watch another podcast. So
I love that. And, it just one message, one person that hears it when they need to hear it, because everything's timing. I think one of the things I love about our story is that, and of course, since it's my podcast and my show, I get to have my favorite people on it. So that's my selfish interest. I just know amazing people, in all fairness. What's special to you about me? There are many things. I don't know if I like that you called me your oldest real estate friend.
You're one of my oldest. Yeah, right. Okay, got it. One of my
longest. How about longest?
Longest. There you go.
But you and I kind of started out on this journey together, and we've gone similar but different directions. So I've seen a lot of your ups and downs. You've hosted Bold for us. You've been our Bold coach here in Austin multiple times, and hopefully very, very soon, once you confirm that with me, perhaps in April of 2023, is this happening?
We will find out.
Who do we need to talk to? Rob Daniel. Right. I'm going to get texting him.
I think you know who to talk to. So
I will make sure that that's happening, because I would love to have you again in April. But you're a game changer, and I've seen you lose weight. I've seen you go through all different things. You've shifted market centers. But what I want to share today, again, it's the getting back up and never quitting, because I think that's the message people really need to hear. So David, why don't you tell for the listeners today that are either watching live on Playing to Win or listening on the second half, let's just introduce to the world David Jones. Who are you? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was born in Texas, and at a very young age, family, mom and dad moved us out to California. So you may not have known that. Maybe you did. Yeah,
I did not know that.
I actually grew up from the age of we'll use ages, not years, right? I think we're both 80s kids, so I think we pretty much know. From the age of 2 to 10 in Southern Cal, Orange County. And then my dad moved us back to Texas, and I grew up throughout those years in North Texas. Went to high school, a little bit elementary, middle school, high school in North Texas, little bitty school, played every sport. Ended up going to a college in Oklahoma called Northeastern State University, played a little baseball for them. And then ended up finishing down in San Antonio, and that's how I got to San Antonio. So That was kind of the quick version. Biggest thing I get all the time is, were you military? Nope. That just was my dad was a salesman, career salesman, and my mom was a career school teacher. So what do I do for a living?
Yeah. You travel and you
I
teach.
I teach salespeople. My dad was a traveling salesman, literally on the road traveling, and my mom was a school teacher. So what do I do for a living? I travel and teach salespeople. So and sell real estate, of course. People always ask me what I do for a living. I'm a realtor by heart. Always will be. Love the real estate industry, every aspect of it. And so so now that's what I do. So that was all the way till, and then went to San Antonio, went to University of Texas, San Antonio, and finished up. And so and then for 10 years, I was actually in family business in marketing and printing industry. And so then I went to San Antonio, San Marcos, Austin. You know, I remember I used to go downtown Austin before it was even what it was now, you know, go down there, and it's just crazy to see the difference. I can see a little bit of a little bit of speckles of the old Austin back in the
I bet.
late 90s in there. So and so during that time and that time of my life, was married, had two amazing children. So you don't have to follow me very long on social media to see my kids.
Yeah,
My daughter Cordelia is we call her Cordy, is now 23, and my son, she actually lives in Denver now. She's wanting to seek the world. She got a little bit of me in her, and she lives in Denver, just moved there the other day. And then my son goes to Texas Tech University. And so my Aggie friends out there, though, because a lot of Aggies will watch this. My daughter graduated from Texas A&M. Whoop. And so, and my son, so I had to do the son, my son's a Red Raider. So guns up to him now. And so that for 10 years, you know, married. And then by the time I got into real estate, is that I got into real estate in 2003. And it was a transition for me because a lot of things were happening in the family business. Wasn't really enjoying the family business. I knew I needed something else to do. And so then I got my real estate license on the weekends. And because I was going to do it part-time. So I have no judgment around somebody that I have no judgment around somebody who tells me I'm gonna do it part-time, because that was literally my mindset. Like, somebody's gonna do it part-time. Hey, I understand. I know the truth now, of course. And, you know, I knew that was a hallucination per se. Can it be done part-time? Sure, gotta have some things in place, and anybody can be coached to do it. And I was gonna do it part-time, and I got in, and and I found out I was pretty good at it, and I loved it and I enjoyed it. I went to the classes. I was helping run my dad's company and doing real estate and kind of overlapping the two, and just fell in love with real estate. And then my dad decided to shut the company down, and he was like worried about, what are you going to do? And I was like, I'm gonna sell real estate. He goes, oh, I knew you said you did this real estate thing. I said, and I told him how much I made that month. And it was a really good month. It was like month number 7 or 8 in real estate. And it was somewhere in 1 month I made 20 to 30,000 in commission checks. And you know, he was pretty, and so I was pretty good after that. So I went full-time real estate.
That was kind of a sign to, like, maybe there's something that, right? It took you probably half a year to make that. I'm just kidding, but you know,
no, that's 100%.
It was a different level of what's possible. Okay, so then he shut down the business and you went full-time real estate.
So I went full-time. So I overlapped, and I can't remember exact years in there. So that was really the shortest version. A lot of people, you know, kind of getting to where I was getting there. And 2003, I took off in real estate. And really hit it, you know, running. And I got lead generation quickly. And, you know, a lot of people, the MREA, you know, if you look at the publication date, wasn't published yet. And if you look over my shoulder, I don't know if you recognize, you notice anything different about that version?
Oh, yes, the original.
It's the original. Not many of those are around. I got 2 of them.
Yeah, if you're just listening on the podcast, it's the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, and it's the original cover. Yeah.
Yeah. So all that was just, they were leaking it. I realized that Gary, I think, was sending stuff down to, because my license is held at Market Center number 2. You know, you used to be at Market Center number 1.
Right, for a decade. Exactly.
Yeah, for a decade.
Yeah.
And so they were leaking stuff down to our Market Center, and I'll talk about some of my mentors, et cetera, here in a minute. And they were teaching classes. And so 33 Touch and all those things were like, oh, this is awesome. So we were just adopting it. And people always ask, what's the key to making in real estate? Just do whatever they say. Don't even think about it. So they say, go door knock. I went and door knocked. They say, go start farming. You mean cold calling back then? DNC wasn't as big of a deal back then. I'd go make the calls. And so, I didn't think about it. They told me to do, like Craig Owen, one of my really good friends, my mentor, the guy that brought me into Keller Williams. I can honestly say he is literally the first domino of my life.
Nice.
He is the domino. And he'd write cold call scripts for me, and I'd go make them. And I get hung up on. I'll tell you the funniest story is that I used to make, when I first did, I was nervous. I remember sweating, sitting in the bullpen making calls the first time. And Craig wrote out a script for me. And I decided to make calls at 10 a.m. in the morning. And the reason I decided to make them at 10 a.m. is because I figured that was the lowest chance of anybody answering the phones. So if anybody out there is nervous,
I bet somebody can relate to that right now.
Right. So if anybody, thinks that people don't get nervous, I can still remember it. I was like, I kept delaying. I said 10 a.m. People are probably at work right now. And I figured out that's why I call it 10 a.m. So that's my life starting up too.
Yeah.
Takes me there.
I love it. So you still were successful, which eventually got you into leadership, right? And that you started as assistant team leader, then you were a team leader, and you moved around. You went to Arizona for a while. You've had a lot of things, and then you end up as a bold coach.
Yeah. So I remember the year. I wasn't very long into being an agent, and I remember getting a call from Craig Owen, and Craig called me, and he goes, "Hey, I want to talk to you about a position called assistant team leader." And I was doing pretty good, so, and we didn't know what we didn't know. We didn't know production. Teams were just being evolved.
Yeah.
The book was just coming out, so this whole team concept was just evolving. Craig was actually one of the early pioneers of teams. People don't know that about Craig Owen. He was one of the early pioneers. I call him the Jerry Maguire of Keller Williams. When he was the guy that left Remax and goes, "I'm going," and who's going with me? And one person went with him.
The goldfish, right?
Yeah, exactly. And
well, now he has the largest real Keller Williams office in the country, right?
Yeah. So no, that's a true story, by the way. If you ever see Craig, ask him about it. And lady named Penelope Priakis, rest in peace, went with him. And that was a funny story. He was kind of the Jerry Maguire doing it. So we didn't know about teams and all this. And so my business was doing good, though. I was making more money if I've ever made, to be honest with you, and paid off some things, paid off a car. I was doing some smart things with it, actually. And he calls me and he goes, what I know now is he was at Masterminds in Austin. And they said, don't overlook one of your younger, newer agents that hasn't proven themselves yet. And that's back before they taught on respectful talent. What are the levels of talent?
Emerging.
Proven,
emerging,
proven.
Right.
They said, don't. And so he calls me up, and I'd only been an agent maybe 2 years. And he said, I'd like to consider you as my assistant team leader. I said, man, I don't think I'll be a very good assistant.
I can't see that exactly. But that title's not a good title for that. What that role actually is in the company.
We actually called it sales manager.
Yeah.
We actually called it sales manager.
Okay.
And so that evolved to being a assistant team leader, which I now know what it means. We know what it means internally. We call it sales manager for externally. And what I now believe to be one of, I don't know if it's for a fact, one of the first productivity coaching programs in the country. I believe us and Market Center #1 and yours in Northwest, I believe, started early because we started creating the commission structure, the productivity coaching programs. And so my first job in Keller Williams in leadership was recruiting and training new agents. And so I did that for several years. I mean, that my whole job was recruiting new agents, like new, and getting them into production, getting them into production. So it's really cool to see a lot of those people that are really, gosh, they're wealthy now. I know guys that have multiple investments. Awesome? People I brought into the company, some of my best friends now.
Yeah.
And I think to myself, if I was not good at my job, just think about the friends I wouldn't have.
Yeah.
People are like, what do you mean? I was like, if I wasn't good at my craft and they went to another company, I wouldn't have had that friendship.
Yeah.
And so that was my first one. And then that evolved into team leader of the Keller Williams Heritage Market Center, which then evolved into me going to Arizona and being part of that team that opened up all the Keller Williams offices in Tucson, Arizona.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember because we met while you were still in San Antonio at a recruiting contest we both won.
Oh, that's the first time we met, right?
But that's where we really got to know each other, right?
Yeah.
We got to, that was really fun. I think we have stories about that. Then we'll save that for later.
That's on the bloopers.
Yeah, exactly. But you get to know us a little bit better to hear those stories. But okay, so you did that for a while. You went and launched in Arizona, and then you come back, and you've lived different places, and we can go different ways there. But tell me about the Bold Coach, because then I moved to Austin in 2011 of January, and you were kind of still doing all that, but then you got into Bold right around then, right? When did you get it to become a Bold?
So when I was about 3.5 years into the Tucson endeavor, I was commuting back and forth. So to go back and have 2 kids.
That's right.
Is I was attempting to go back and forth. And I get a lot of people ask me about the team leader role. I'm very, very honest with them about the team leader role. If you're in the trenches team leader, maybe not the executive team leader role, although the team leader trenches role when you're launching out year 1, 2, and 3 is difficult to commute. And so I was 3.5 years in. We established, we got everything plateaued. It took us about 2.5 years to get into the model, to get everybody in the model, because we did some big mergers. That's probably a different conversation. We did like 4 or 5 mergers in a row, which means you adopted a bunch of different plans and different fee structures. It was kind of,
just different.
It's a big pile of spaghetti that you got to line up in order.
Yeah.
And you could take spaghetti and line up in order after, line it up, but it just takes time and it's got to be done systematically. So we did. And then I made the choice on a personal level. I was like, you know what? I need to be back living in San Antonio full time. And I was missing out on some things. So then I won't lie to you. The obvious thing is I started looking in the ideas. I had that in my gut that I said, you know what, I need to go ahead. I heard auditions were happening. It was February. It was before Family Reunion 2013. Yeah. And so Sean Kokoska was running Bold at the time. And I said, hey, I don't know, it's in my future. Tell me about Bold. I was kind of looking at what my possibilities were, not even knowing I was moving yet. And so called Sean and said, Sean, how does this Bold thing work? I love Bold. Got to know him because he was my Bold coach. And I highly encourage you. I would pick him up at the airport every week. I would take him to his hotel. People, it's interesting to me. Is like, go guys, if you got Bold coming to your area and you're a leader, man, you should go. I'm not saying just to save that Uber money for that coach. I'm saying because these are relationships.
Absolutely.
And so I got to know Sean at a level. I called him up and said, hey. And he goes, you need to audition in February. So he told me, you need to come audition. So I went on. So February, I got the material. I studied it, had a lot of Bold friends, a lot of Bold coaches that were friends. Like most of them were friends of mine. And so they told me, they told me what to do. And I went in and I auditioned a Family Reunion. And my audition was interesting. I walked in, it was in the room was Kate Patulski, Diana Kokoska, Sean Kokoska, Steve Schlueter, Shannon Steer. Man, I can't even remember, just name after name of great instructors, great. And Sean Kokoska looked at me and he goes, all right, go. I couldn't speak a word. My brain and my mouth wouldn't work. I couldn't get a word out. And Diana goes, time out. She goes, David, I would like to see the real David. Little exact words out of her mouth. So we're going to start over. And I was wondering if David would show up right now, because I want to see the David, because I love David.
Oh.
Pat interrupted me, started over. And so I auditioned for that. And then and I want to tell another story in here about showing up, if that's okay. And because I think this is part of an important story right here. Is Bold Leader was being I think it's called Bold Leader or Bold Leadership, was a program that we did for years. And I believe Dusty, the director of Bold, is looking to bring it back. And so I knew that Bold Leader was going around, and Diana was teaching it, and I had a feeling she wasn't going to teach many more of them. Diana Kokoska, so many people know, is the original author of Bold. A lot of people who listen to this podcast may not know that. Who is probably between Craig Owen, Mark Willis, Diana Kokoska, of course, Gary Keller, top influential people in my life, period, along with my grandfather and my dad. And I knew she wasn't teaching it long, so I went and talked to my OP and said, I'll pay for my travel with the Market Center pay for the ticket. And so this is in the middle of 2013. And this is my story to MAPS and Bold, just so you know. I'd already auditioned for Bold. And Sean goes, you got a green light. You got the energy. And I was blessed with energy. I'm very grateful for that. And I go to Bold Leader in St. Louis, which was one of the locations, 3 locations. And at the airport, I see Diana Kokoska. So I run to I was eating and I saw her pass by and go, hey, Diana. She said hi and walks over to the gate. So I paid my tab, ran over to Diana, sit next to her and talked to her, almost like a fan, I'm like, literally, I'm like, okay, I'm not. So I go in there, she tells me, this is interesting. She goes, David, I think there's a seat next to me in first class that's open. I still to this day don't know why she knew that. The old days you used to do it on the kiosk. Now we have phones and all that, but you used to be able to. So she must have upgraded at the kiosk. And I go, really? So I was going to the counter. I was a team leader in a building Market Center. Didn't fly first class a lot, to be honest with you. Is the possibility it's my first time sitting in first class, to be honest. And I walk up to the counter and I take my ticket and a credit card and I slid it across the counter. I said, I heard there's a seat open in first class on the first row. I don't know what I paid for that ticket to this day. And I sat next to Diana and I started talking to her the whole way. I said, am I bothering you? She says, no. So I started talking to her about this program. I said, I heard there was a program called Pursuit of Profit Share. She goes, yeah. I said, what happened to that? Well, the gentleman that was doing it decided to go on and do his own thing, lead MAPS coaching. She says, well, it's been shelved. And as you know, you and I won some recruiting contests. So I was very well known as one of the top team leader recruiters in the country. And so that's opened up some opportunities to it. If you want opportunities in our company, do 1 of 2 things, everybody. Be a great listing agent or a great recruiter. And I say, I believe I can do that program. And she goes, you definitely qualify. And I said, could I look at the opportunity of doing that? I think I can do that program, teach it and benefit people and do the team leader role. She says, I love opportunities. So I emailed her when I get back. And that was my first entry into MAPS coaching. Was teaching Pursuit of Profit Share, a 1 hour a week for 16 weeks that we merged down to 12 weeks of helping agents teach them. And I did that for 5 years. I taught Pursuit of Profit Share for 5 years. And then that became then my next move was this. I had to decide if I was going to become a MAPS coach or a Bold coach. And my next transition, when I made the decision to move fully, so I talked to both sides. And I decided I actually started as a MAPS coach, not a Bold coach. And that was my transition. And so I went into MAPS coaching as a leadership coach first. And I was Recruit Select certified. So then they started calling me and saying, we need agents, we need coaches that know Recruit Select, which now RSTLM is now career visioning. And so I started coaching mega agents. And then immediately they asked me to start doing Bold because they needed some Bold coaches. And I went to Bold coaches training. They said, can you get ready to go out? In the fall of 2013, that launched my career as a Bold coach. Now that was probably one of the hardest transitions I ever made, was leaving that team leader role, transitioning back. And that transition back of the unknown, there was a gap in there. I'm probably making it sound a lot easier than it was. There was a lot of unknowns of moving, income, a lot of unknowns in there. Bold was fairly new.
Identity, when you're in a role like a team leader role, right? It's such a part of who you are, right? So I think anybody that's been in any kind of leadership role, when you transition out of that, I think that's always an adjustment in itself also, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a betting on yourself thing. It's making a leap of faith in whatever's next. So there's a lot of unknowns, and it was really cool to see you do that. And honestly, every time we have done Bold together, people always tell me the impact that you make. And I've had a lot of Bold coaches, and I have a lot of Bold coaches are my friends, and right, because we've all kind of grown up in this company together, which is amazing. And honestly, before I came to Austin, I shared with you, Bold Coach was one of the things I considered doing, except I didn't want to be on the road. So, David, when you think about then impact, because I think because you're such a positive person, and how you show up, though, you bring accountability. I think one of the things I really admire about you is you do always bring accountability into the room, and anywhere that you are is like you bring excellence for yourself, and you also accept and expect excellence from the people around you, which I think that's probably why we're really drawn to each other, because we always come with our best. There's just no other way. That's why I'm really excited to call Rob Daniel right after this, just to confirm.
It's always my pleasure to do it with you guys, even when I came and sub for Cody that time.
Oh, that was great.
Making those, I think you nailed on something right there. And that was, early in my career, when I started out, I went through a divorce early in my real estate career doing it. That was that impact of overlapping and doing real estate in that point. And you get lost in your identity of who you are, and that, early on is, real estate, moving into leadership. And when you're put on a platform in leadership, you're standing there, and your true colors start showing. And so that was that first time in my life I've ever really had a breakdown, was really as an agent making it and going through that. The second hardest time was that identity break of being a team leader for so many years and moving into something. The biggest growth up to this point in my life was when I became a MAPS coach and a Bold coach. And that was probably biggest breakdowns I had were changing that identity, going into that transition. Really exposed me on habits. It exposed me on, patterns that I was going through. I look back at pictures, and, I think I am healthier. I think I'm happier now. I'm more rounded. I'm more grounded. So those breakdowns, making that transition was probably the first time I'd really gone through true breakdowns in my life. Those breakdowns, because I had great people around me and a coach around me. And those breakdowns were caused by high accountability, with people like Diana Kokoska held high accountability, calling you out on things, being authentic. By the biggest compliment I had in my life, I have ever, is when people say you're very authentic. Had a moment this last Bold round where somebody asked a question in the audience personally, and my palms started sweating a little bit, but family. And I reached down and I took my Bold wristband, and I just had to switch bracelets because I had to change how I looked at those things. And so that was probably the first time I've gone through major breakdowns, that transition of a team leader and going in to become a MAPS coach and a Bold coach and coaching others and making it through that.
Don't you think you're better in the room, though, because you've been through that, though? Like, don't you feel like, because if you, and you have so many, we don't have time to go into everything you've been through. You've had major heartbreak, loss in your life. You've had health. You really are a different version of yourself in the 15 years I've known you, right? And it's so beautiful to see how you show up to the world today, because when you're in that Bold room, but what I love, and this is maybe what keeps you there, but it's that transformation in the room of people. Yeah. Right. And that's what coaching does, right? That's what coaching, it removes those blind spots and those invisible walls, right? So, your transformation, though, I think makes you legitimate in the room, and it's that humbleness. I think that we have when we're younger, we're so driven to be number one that later on we're like, yeah, You know, it's really so much more than that. I think that's how you show up.
Well,
as
you
a-
know, it's inside of all those years we just described, and we've only kind of made it to really 2013, 14, if you think about it,
yeah.
I have both of my sisters passed away during that time I just described. One sister, my first sister died, Jennifer, in 2007, and that was devastating for my family. And then my other sister, just not long ago, took her own life. And then January this year, my dad passed away. Dad was 77, had a great life. So, now taking care of mom, which I'm very proud to do, and happy I'm able to get to do that. Is all, those are part of those breakdowns along the way. If you were to do my life story type thing, you would see that in there. And if anybody on this call is listening, when it comes to hear about follow the model, guys, career visioning, you've got to follow those tools they got. That's life story is life changing for people for doing, and you kind of see those patterns in there. So, if you go through my life story, you probably see those bumps, and those life stories have big impacts along the way.
Yeah, a big time, and it's
including a couple of divorces too in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is the equivalent of going through a death.
It is.
Of those things, because there's a process you going through for doing it. And so you turn around. I probably have a tendency to be a little bit on the optimistic side. My mission in life is this. Felt like I had some knockdowns. First growth was I moved to Tucson to open up those market center. That was a big growth period. I didn't, I want to make sure that was a big kick in the gut, because, we were operating entrepreneurially in San Antonio. Craig and I were like a machine running. It's the reason we're on stage a lot. We were like a machine running back in the day. And then I moved to Tucson and nobody knew who I was. My skills were put to a test. I was hiring coaches. I hired Rich Rector. I said, I need you to make me a better recruiter. Those are knocking my guts. And then moving back, becoming a bold coach, whole new set of skills, getting on the road, coaching agents, coaching mega agents. Those are, and then along the way, so life, one thing we know about, accountability, which is perspective number 6, is accountability. And a lot of people, if you go read accountability on the 6 perspectives, is different than we define accountability a lot of times. Like accountability is, did you do what you say you're going to do? Accountability in 6 perspectives is life is going to happen. And you got 2 choices. You can become a victim, or you can become accountable. That's perspective number 6. And if there's any message taken away on here, these travels is, the one thing you want to have in is playing to win, is not playing not to lose. And I think many people in life are playing not to lose. And playing to win is differently defined to me today than it was 8 years ago.
Well, that's my favorite question on the show. So let's go there. What does playing to win look like for you today, David Jones?
So I think playing to win, there's, we talk about this thing, here's some notes I wrote down. I think it's going to go there. Playing to win is, a lot of people believe wealth doesn't always mean happiness. I do believe that you can be happy and be wealthy. Success doesn't always mean people are good people. I do believe you can be a good person and be successful, though. Playing to win, to me, is we're all going to have moments that we're going to fall into victim. Dick Dillingham, I heard him say it one time. I want to give credit because I heard him say it first. And he says, there's 2 types of victims out there. There's professional victims and there's amateur victims.
I love that.
I think we've all been amateur victims. We've all thrown pity parties. We've all gotten upset. We all have intense conversations. And it's how you respond. My mission is this. And anybody out there at any point in your life, whether it's divorce, whether you've been lied to, whether you've had a bad relationship, whether you've had a bad business dealing, whether you failed 5 times, 6 times, 10 times, at any time in your world, playing to win is at any time you can make a choice to turn and make a 45-degree turn, not 100. You don't take, it doesn't mean you got to turn around, just a 45-degree turn. And you can change your attitude, and it's okay to feel sorry for yourself for a little bit. But you know what? Because that's, there's a process there, but you got to get back up, and people are going to do things that's going to hurt. That's what I've learned in life. And playing to win to me is, why are you doing what you're doing? And I think the decisions I've made, well, every decision I've done, whether it was moving for a business endeavor, I think a lot of times I did them for the wrong reasons, believe it or not. And what I've learned about playing to win is I'm doing, for the first time in my life, I feel like right now, that I'm doing things for my reasons, not for the reasons of others. Now, all those experiences have got me to get there today. And I just recently got to spend a lot of time with my son, and we did a road trip. You want to have time with your kids? Do a road trip.
That's right.
We're not flying. We're driving. You're driving. And so that was my son. I did, and my daughter, I did the same thing. As a matter of fact, I think when you were telling me you want to go and do the podcast, I think I was driving to go get my daughter in Houston, and on Christmas Eve, which was my pleasure.
Yeah, that's right.
And one thing I want my kids to learn, and what I want to communicate to them, is learn these things faster. Learn about what really life means to you. I think we all need to, family matters, relationships matter, and money matters. A lot of people want to do a lot of great things in this world. And in order for you to do it, you're probably going to have to make more money to do it. Go read the books and listen to them. One thing I would have done differently younger is I would have read more diligently. I think I read, put the book away, and checkboxed it. Now I read them, I reread them, I listen to them. So playing to win to me is how you handle, not if life's going to happen, is when it happens, is how you respond to it. And the people that I choose to hang around now, they say there's a saying, you hear this all the time. You've heard it for years. And I think I'm getting it more every time. That is, the more you grow, the smaller your circles get.
Yes. I've
always thought that was an interesting, I was always like, oh, that's weird, because I love people. I understand it more now, because I can't have that negativity around me. I want people around me that are going to support the positivity. And so peace is important. But I believe that you can have peace and success. Success doesn't always mean peace, though. So you got to really figure out what you want in life, why you want it, what's so important about it. And it doesn't matter how you get there. I used to care how I got there. I used to think owning market centers was a great thing. I used to think, I do have ownership in areas.
In Cabo San Lucas.
That's right. Absolutely.
Go down and buy a condo on the beach and, make your.
If anybody's interested in going to Cabo, we got paradisemexico.mx. All you got to go to, and you can go find something, and we'll take care of you. So, I got involved.
I got to get my Spanish going a little bit better.
Yeah, because I know you got that wonderful granddaughter.
That's right.
That's right. So I think playing to win is, it's not if life's going to happen, it's how you respond. And it doesn't matter what other people think, how you respond. What you put on, social media, what you put on anywhere, is that be authentic you, and don't get stuck. Don't get stuck. Don't get stuck on who you are and how you do it. Be stuck on who you choose to be and where you desire to go, and say, where do you want to go? And then be the person you need to be there, to get there. Stop listening to the story you're telling yourself. I told every phase of my life, there's a story that I defended of why I was okay there. And you may
So
find
true.
yourself changing some relationships. People may not decide to grow with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's playing to win for me, is how you respond.
I love that. How do you, okay, so you just kind of gave an answer to one of the things you say, don't get stuck on who you are, be stuck on where you want to go, and find the way to get there. Let's talk a little bit more about that, because I always like to give, and I know this time's going fast and I see that on the clock, but I would love to just give some of, because I think you have a brilliant mind around this, because you are a coach at heart and you help so many people. For people that are stuck right now, if somebody's stuck and they're listening to this,
Yeah.
whatever it is, stuck with their health, stuck in their marriage, whatever it is, what advice would you give somebody? And they know they're stuck, like, they bought into their own belief that it was
Yeah.
okay. Now they're getting, I think what the last 2.5 years has done for a lot of people, David, is really kind of revealed, like, taking that off, taking that filter off. I don't want that life, right? A lot of people are kind of having these transformations. Any advice you would have for people that are hearing that are like, yeah, or oh, the market changed, or whatever excuse they're coming
Yeah.
up with?
So the person that's stuck so far deep that that's oblivious, that doesn't want to hear it, has already turned this off.
Yeah, they're not my
No, I
listeners
really mean it.
anyway.
I really
Yeah.
mean it. So the person that already turned it off is the one that, they're really stuck. There's people that are stuck in a way where, I don't believe you can change people. I can ask questions. I can give them stories. I can use metaphors, all those kind of things. There's a story you're telling yourself, and we all buy into that story. And if you do find yourself stuck and you want out, you got to figure out what habits. And I'm quoting all these things. People ask me, why don't you write a book? Because I said, because everything I'm saying, people have already taught. These are nothing new here. Is you got to think about start with some basic habits. And that is, I'll tell you one thing I did this year, and done at different times in my life. And that is, alcohol really doesn't have a place in my life. That's one. I'm not, I hang out with people all the time. They're having drinks. I'm fine with that. I'm just saying, for me, it was not applying to where I wanted to go. I felt it. So I was like, you know what? Boom. So, and I've done that different times. I feel great during that time. I'm like, man, I got to go back to that. And so, maybe it's something like that, a habit you need to quit. Then who are you hanging around? I honestly think it's going to be around what you eat, what you drink, and starting with exercise, believe it or not. As silly as that sounds, those are the places to start. After that, and I heard this as a Zig Ziglar conference, and I once saw Zig Ziglar, it's got to be 1994, literally. Yeah. And he said, your success, your future in life is determined by the books you read and the people you hang around. So we have some of these that teach in bold called Point Forward. So somebody who's stuck, first of all, is you got to go out and get around people that are where you want to be and talk like you want to be around. If you're around people that are also stuck, you're going to stay stuck. Who you hang around matters. I know that sounds you hear it all the time. You hear it all the time. Go to that meeting, go to family reunion, go to Bold, go watch the videos, whatever you can afford. Is what are you eating? What's your diet? Exercise a little bit, whatever you're able to do. And then who are you hanging around? And that's going to be those little things right there. And then say, what's one new habit they want to create? Now, one thing I did about reading is this. I started reading. I adopted the Ben Kinney model to reading. Is I read and listen to it on Audible at the same time. That right there helped me become a better reader.
From a retention, like you feel like you retain the information better when you do it that way?
So you know what I think it was, really? I'll tell you why. Is because I can look at Audible and I can plan how long it's going to take me to read the book. It actually makes me feel like I got a finish line finally.
Okay.
So I can look at it and got 3 hours left in this book. Oh, I can do that. That's 6 days of 30 minutes. I can do this. I literally believe that was what it is. And I can tune out during storytelling and not read. And then I can tune back in and take notes on the margins, and I can listen and read. So I literally follow along on all my books, except the one right now I'm reading. This one right now, I decided this one's so story. I'm actually reading, this is in it. is a Man's Search for Meaning.
Mm.
Man's Search for Meaning. I thought I had it here. It's in my other bag.
Okay.
Man's Search for Meaning. That is such a story-based book. I just started listening to them.
Okay.
Yeah, by Viktor Frankl.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
heard it. I've read it. It's been a long time though.
Yeah, I actually am reading it right now. I'm the last third right now.
Okay, very
Yeah.
cool. But that's just funny because I never thought of reading books as like a goal thing. Like, okay, 6 more hours and breaking it down. It's just right. But that's your structured. Because you're not structured by nature. I don't believe. I believe you brought that in to the systems and things, right? Or are you a structured person?
I'm more systemic than people believe. My brain's more systemic. My brain operates in a systematic, linear way.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Okay, so as we wrap up, so 2023, we just started, and I try not to make it too tied to a timeline because I want our listeners to be able to listen at any time. But wherever you are in your life, right? There are so many things that you haven't gotten to yet, or that you have done and you're super proud of. Is there anything for you, David Jones, that you are excited about in the next year or so for your own personal growth?
My own personal growth, 2023 is got the real estate team back running in San Antonio, which
Nice.
is something that like full time. We've always had a team running. I'm very excited about that. Got a great lead generation team operating out of Mexico. So very involved in KW Mexico. Like I said, we call it, the website is paradisemexico.mx. So the Jones Real Estate team, I'm very excited about. Got some great things that are launching actually the next week or two. And honestly, my job still is, why I mentioned those two first, is my passion is Bold. And that is, we launched Bold October of 21, relaunched it post-COVID, and getting out in the trenches. And that is working full-time. And Bold is my passion. It's just going in and getting the emails. I was going through some books today and I saw, just note cards of notes from people that I keep. And I'll open up a book and I said, where was this at? And so the impact of, what does Bold mean to people? What Bold really is about, if you're stuck, probably go to Bold. If you're a realtor, if you're not listening to this, you're not, find something that'll break you out. So 2023 is the year of 100% all in as a head coach for Bold, making sure we have fantastic Bold coaches, helping our Bold program be amazing front lines out in the field for Keller in the real estate industry, relaunching the team and helping them brand and getting that going in San Antonio. And then also in KW Cabo. And so, and doing that, and who knows where that'll go from there. So those are really the focuses for 2023. That's
awesome. So one more question. Do you think Bold is still relevant today?
Oh yeah. It's like saying working out's not relevant. It's like,
I know, but I hear this question all the time from agents and limiting things out there. That's not relevant. Da, da, da. It's like, okay, interesting. So let's talk about that. And you have other people that have amazing success. So it's kept you in the game, right? So
it's like, once again, it's kind of like saying, I've already been working out for 3 years. I'm done working out. Is every time you hit, you level up. The very second, though, that your brain is going to do everything it can to convince you that you're fine. You're making enough money. I've taken Bold 10 times. I've taken Bold 20 times. You in Austin, you got to have somebody that's taken it that many times. Relevant is not the question. Are you stuck is the question. No. And if you're saying one of two things, this is the number one things about when people say, I don't need to do Bold. I'm not here to sell Bold. I was here to tell a story. Right. Hopefully impact somebody, don't get stuck. Is when you do say two things though, I don't have the time. When you habitually say, I don't have time, that is a cap on your life and your income. And if you say, I've already done that, been there, done that, it's not relevant. It's just another way you saying, I've already been there, done that. I know what to do. When you say those things, you're basically your brain is helping you stay stuck. Mm-hmm. And so it's not about being relevant. It's about you being stuck. That's kind of a little blunt way of saying it. Now, this also makes sure understand is this. Everybody has different lives they have. You know, everybody chooses like, somebody says, I only want to make 200 a year because I want this. That's fine. Then do it in less time. You know, so it doesn't mean like you got to be $1 million. It doesn't mean you got to be Ben Kenny. It doesn't mean you got to be, you know, Tim Haya, all great people, you know, that all started in bold, right? Kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
It just means that whatever life you choose, be okay with it and go live that life and create balance. And balance can exist. A counterbalance can exist. So be careful of the stories you're telling, because we tend to, I do it, you do it. We tend to defend our stories, why it's okay for me not to do something.
Right. Yes, absolutely. And to keep us where we're at, right? So if you had a quote like under your name, like in Facebook, everybody has a saying, right? Like mine is, don't let the world change who you are, let who you are change the world. That's like the way I live every day. That means so many different things for me. And I know I did not prepare you for this, but if David Jones were to have a tagline under his name, any idea what that would be, darling?
I don't know if it's a tagline. Yeah, you're right. I wasn't ready for that exactly. It's okay. You're going to make me think about it. I'll be texting you later. I promise you that.
I can't wait to hear.
I think, you know, I'm not sure, you know, when you're in there, I care so much about everybody, you know, I care so much about the agent that I'm working with. I don't believe people know how much I care for them. You know, where I place in their life to help them create a life. And I do believe that a lot of people need to make more money to accomplish the life they want. Pastors have a purpose in people's lives, and bold coaches to help you fund that perfect life. And I would say, honestly, the purpose of, I'll go to run something out of bold that I think is resonating. And that is, we say the purpose of life is to live before you die. You have to define what that means to you. To me, it means me becoming free so that I can, when grandkids hopefully come, when they come, that I can spend time with them guiltless. So the purpose of life is to live before you die. And when you're in the business world, the purpose of business is to fund the perfect life. I think that actually is as stock and textbook as that sounds, and on a PowerPoint screen, that probably is the truth right there. The purpose of life is to live before you die. You get to define that. And the purpose of business is to fund the perfect life. That's probably how I treat every day. And living before I die means that I'm free. And if you don't know what that means, is we teach something called the freedom number, which Gary's been talking about, and that is, because you got to become free, where you got to create passive income. You got to get free. So I think that would be it, actually.
Do you feel like you're living that right now?
I am. I can see it. I can see it. I can see it. In other words, am I living free right now? No. Can I see the path to get there? Probably more clear today than ever before. And it's mostly because of who I associate with now and choose to associate with.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm so proud of you. That's awesome. You know,
it only took 51 years, but you know, and that's,
hey.
So if I ever start my own podcast, it's going to be called Third Chances.
No, let's reframe that. When you start your new podcast, it's going to be called what, my friend?
Third Chances. And the purpose of it is going to be this. At any time in your life, the whole focus of it, at any time in your life, you can make a pivot and you can have any life you desire. And it's nothing different than what Gary says. Is no matter where you're at in your life right now, you're 5 years away from a life you've never imagined. You know, I know I'm just a textbook repeater. I just want to get the message out. And wherever you're at, no matter how many business failings, how many divorces you've had, no matter how many your relationships, your businesses crash. I didn't lead generate for 10 days. Stop beating yourself up. Third chances. It could be your fourth or fifth chances. I just thought the fifth chances sounded too many. So
you might rule some people out on that.
I might rule some people out. But everybody can relate to third chances. Everybody can relate to third chances.
Absolutely.
You know,
And everybody deserves and is worthy. And a lot of that is the self-belief in that I'm worthy of that. So I look forward to that podcast. And that is my challenge to you this year. And I'm going to be watching and holding you accountable on that. And we will share that with our listeners. But I want to thank you for your time today. And just thank you for all the good that you do in the world. That's exactly who I want to surround myself with. And this is exactly why I asked you over Christmas, like, would you come be on the show, please? So thank you.
Well, it's a pleasure. And honestly, if anybody in here listening in, just you got to keep plugging in and become very self-aware of yourself. And so it's my pleasure. The best as the best is here and the best is yet to come, as you told me not too long ago. And just go out there and so many people have poured into me. And the company, all the way from Mark, Diana, Gary, Craig, so many people have poured into me. And so the best is yet to come.
It is, my friend. And I would agree that so many people would say that you poured into them and they're who they are today because of that. So keep doing the good work, my dear.
Well, it's my pleasure. My friend, you're awesome. You make a difference as well just by doing this. Appreciate it. And man, that was a fast hour.
It was. Well, thank you. Thank you for listening, everybody, to our listeners, and we'll see you on the next episode. See you soon. Thank you so much.
See you guys.